The quantum sensors at Galactic Confederation Monitoring Station Epsilon 9 never lied. Until today. Chief Sensor Operator Ulrichs watched in mounting disbelief as the impossible unfolded before his multiple spectrum displays. The station's advanced detection grid, a marvel of technological integration that had mapped countless stellar anomalies, now trembled with uncertainty. Something was emerging from the quantum fold, a region of spacetime that most civilizations considered unpredictable and largely unexplored. The initial signature defied every known parameter. Most species developed quantum transition technologies that created massive turbulent energy signatures, sprawling, chaotic bursts that announced their arrival like cosmic fireworks. This emergence was different, precise, controlled, as if the very fabric of spacetime was being surgically parted by an intelligence beyond conventional understanding. Ulrichs' specialized sensory tendrils, evolutionary adaptations that allowed his species to detect minute energy fluctuations, began to vibrate with an unusual frequency. Fear, excitement, confusion. The emotions tangled together in a complex biochemical response that his training struggled to suppress. System diagnostic, he barked to his junior operative, a young Veloxian named Kren. Confirm external variables. Kren's nimble fingers danced across holographic interfaces, running simultaneous diagnostic checks. Each scan returned the same impossible result. The incoming vessel wasn't just anomalous, it was fundamentally incomprehensible. The station's primary communication array hummed to life, automatically preparing translation matrices for potential first contact. Thousands of linguistic algorithms stood ready, capable of interpreting communication from over 2,347 known sentient species. They would soon discover their limitations. Historical context was crucial. The Galactic Confederation represented a collective of 186 spacefaring civilizations, each contributing their unique technological and cultural perspectives to a vast interstellar network. They had long believed that technological advancement followed predictable patterns. Species developed faster than light travel, established communication protocols, and gradually integrated into the broader galactic community. Humanity had been an outlier from the beginning. Initial contact reports suggested a species from a single planetary system, technologically primitive, culturally fragmented, seemingly more interested in internal conflicts than stellar exploration. The last comprehensive intelligence report, compiled just 17 standard galactic cycles ago, had categorized humans as potentially interesting, but unlikely to achieve significant interstellar capability within the next 2 centuries. Those reports were about to be spectacularly wrong. The quantum fold began to stabilize, its chaotic edges resolving into a geometrically perfect aperture. Most vessels created messy transitions, energy bleeding outward, quantum residue scattering like cosmic dandruff. This emergence was surgical, clean, as if the very laws of physics were being politely requested to make way. Lieutenant Jessica Martinez watched from her observation station, a rare human assigned to the Confederation's monitoring network. Her presence was part of a diplomatic exchange program, viewed by most as a bureaucratic formality, a token gesture of inclusivity. She knew better. Her slight smile, almost imperceptible to her alien colleagues, carried the weight of carefully guarded secrets. The humans had been preparing, watching, learning. While other species saw exploration as a collective endeavor, humanity understood it as a complex strategic challenge. The vessel began to materialize. Ulrichs' sensory tendrils went completely still. Even by the diverse standards of galactic engineering, this ship was different. No standard configuration presented itself. No recognizable drive signatures matched existing databases. Its hull seemed to absorb surrounding light, creating an effect that was less about stealth and more about a fundamental redefinition of spatial interaction. Incoming energy signature, Kren announced, his voice cracking with a mixture of professional training and barely contained excitement. Completely unprecedented. The ship continued its emergence, sleek, angular, radiating an aura of contained potential that made seasoned space explorers like Ulrichs feel something they rarely experienced: profound, existential uncertainty. First contact protocols engaged automatically. Communication channels opened. Translation matrices hummed with anticipation. Nobody, not a single being across the vast Galactic Confederation, was prepared for what would happen next. The communication chamber of the Galactic Confederation's primary diplomatic hub was designed to handle thousands of potential first contact scenarios. Its walls were lined with quantum adaptive resonance panels, capable of processing linguistic and emotional nuances from species ranging from silicon-based life forms to energy-pure consciousness clusters. None of those systems were prepared for what happened next. Chief Diplomatic Translator Zorlek felt his specialized language centers begin to pulse with an unprecedented level of confusion. The incoming transmission defied every established communication protocol. No preliminary identification sequence. No standard quantum encryption. Just a direct, almost dismissive communication that cut through their most sophisticated filters like a quantum laser through atmospheric vapor. United Earth Destroyer Prometheus to Galactic Confederation Central Command, responding to Orion Cluster Distress Beacon, awaiting tactical briefing. The words themselves were simple, but their delivery, that was something else entirely. Commander Ryan Thompson sat in the Prometheus's command chair, his posture a study in control potential. Around him, the ship's bridge moved with a synchronicity that suggested something far beyond traditional crew coordination. Each crew member was simultaneously an individual and part of a larger, almost organic system of human capability. Lieutenant Michael Chen monitored the communication interfaces, his fingers dancing across holographic displays with a precision that seemed to anticipate system responses before they occurred. To the left, Tactical Officer Sarah Rodriguez maintained a comprehensive analysis of surrounding space, her neural interface seamlessly integrating multiple sensor streams into a cohesive tactical picture. They were waiting, not with anxiety, but with a calculated patience that felt almost predatory. In the Confederation's communication hub, chaos erupted. Translation verification. Zorlek shouted, his linguistic tendrils writhing with agitation. Junior translators ran diagnostic after diagnostic, each result more perplexing than the last. The transmission was simultaneously perfect and impossible. Perfect in its linguistic construction. Impossible in its fundamental approach. Most first contact communications involved elaborate introductory sequences, quantum encrypted identification codes, cultural preservation protocols, diplomatic niceties that could take standard cycles to navigate. This transmission was different. It was a statement, a declaration, an almost casual demonstration of capabilities that left the Confederation's communication experts reeling. Historical context was crucial. Humanity had been an enigma in galactic records. Early observations suggested a species trapped in internal conflicts, technologically promising but seemingly more interested in terrestrial challenges than stellar exploration. Intelligence reports from just a few galactic cycles ago had categorized humans as potentially interesting, but unlikely to achieve significant interstellar capability for at least 2 centuries. Those reports were about to be spectacularly invalidated. On the Prometheus's bridge, the crew moved with a fluidity that suggested they were more than just a team. They were a single, complex organism. Each member anticipated the other's actions with a precision that bordered on the telepathic. No verbal commands were necessary. A slight gesture from Thompson, a micro-expression from Chen, a nearly imperceptible adjustment from Rodriguez. They were ready. For anything. Back in the communication hub, Zorlek made a decision that would be debated in diplomatic circles for generations. Instead of following standard first contact procedures, he chose direct engagement. Prometheus, he transmitted, his linguistic algorithms working at maximum capacity. Please provide additional identification and mission parameters. The response was instantaneous. Negative on extended identification. Mission parameters are clear. Orion Cluster Distress Beacon indicates potential large-scale humanitarian crisis. We are responding with authorized intervention capabilities. Humanitarian intervention. The words themselves were straightforward, but the implied capabilities, those were anything but simple. Lieutenant Jessica Martinez, the human liaison officer stationed at the Confederation monitoring station, allowed herself a subtle smile. Her alien colleagues had no idea what was about to unfold. The humans had been preparing, watching, learning. While other species saw exploration as a collective endeavor guided by committees and diplomatic protocols, humanity understood it as a complex, multi-dimensional strategic challenge. And they were very, very good at solving challenges. The Prometheus hung in space, a silent, deadly promise of capabilities, yet to be fully revealed. First contact was about to become something entirely different from what anyone expected. Humanity's journey to this moment was etched in the scars of 1,000 conflicts, written in the blood of generations who refused to surrender. The story began not in the sterile corridors of space exploration, but in the crucible of Earth's most challenging decades. Climate catastrophes had reshaped continents. Technological disruptions had torn apart traditional economic structures. Political systems had been pushed to their absolute limits. Where other civilizations might have collapsed, humanity transformed. Dr. Elizabeth Reyes leaned back in her holographic archive, reviewing the historical records that most galactic historians completely misunderstood. The Quantum Computing Lab at the International Advanced Research Complex stood as a testament to human resilience. Located in what was once the decimated landscape of the American Southwest, it represented humanity's most ambitious technological resurrection. The climate wars of the 2040s had been brutal. Rising sea levels had swallowed coastal megacities. Massive population migrations had redrawn global maps. Entire nations had been forced to reimagine their existence. But instead of falling into chaos, humanity had done something unexpected. They innovated. Water reclamation technologies developed during the crisis became the foundation of advanced resource management systems. Renewable energy solutions, born of desperate necessity, transformed into quantum energy manipulation techniques that would later revolutionize space travel. The same technologies that had helped humanity survive on a dying planet would become the key to conquering the stars. Military conflicts had always been humanity's dark crucible of innovation. The global tensions of the mid-21st century had accelerated technological development at an unprecedented rate. Artificial intelligence, initially developed for military strategic analysis, had evolved into something far more complex. Not a replacement for human intelligence, but an extension of it. The Prometheus was more than a warship. It was the culmination of generations of human adaptation. Each system told a story. The quantum drive, developed from climate mitigation technologies that had once saved entire ecosystems. The adaptive shield systems, inspired by the immune response mechanisms discovered during global pandemic research. The targeting algorithms, a direct descendant of crowd management artificial intelligence, developed during the global migration crisis. Commander Ryan Thompson understood this history intimately. His grandmother had been one of the lead engineers who helped redesign Los Angeles after the massive earthquake and sea level rise of 2052. His grandfather had been a climate refugee who transformed agricultural technologies to feed millions. Every human carried such stories. The galactic community saw humanity as a young, somewhat chaotic species. They didn't understand that every challenge had been a learning opportunity. Every setback had been a chance to redesign, to reimagine, to evolve. Lieutenant Michael Chen's neural interface was a perfect example. Developed initially to help patients with neurological disorders, the technology had evolved into a seamless human-machine integration that allowed unprecedented levels of cognitive and technological collaboration. In the Prometheus's engineering bay, Chief Engineer Sarah Rodriguez walked between massive quantum capacitors. Each one represented a breakthrough that most alien species would consider impossible. Technologies that didn't just push boundaries, they'd redefine them entirely. The ship's artificial intelligence was not a separate entity, but an integrated cognitive system. It didn't replace human decision-making. It enhanced it. Where alien AI systems were rigid, programmed for specific tasks, human AI had learned to be adaptive, to understand context, to make intuitive leaps. Historical records in the Galactic Confederation archives told only a fraction of the story. They saw humanity's conflicts as signs of weakness. They were, in fact, the very mechanism of human strength. Natural selection had always been humanity's most powerful tool, not just biological evolution, but technological, social, and cognitive evolution. Each challenge was an opportunity to become something more. The Prometheus represented more than a technological achievement. It was a statement, a declaration that humanity would not be defined by others' expectations. They had survived a dying planet, transformed entire ecosystems, reimagined social structures, pushed technological boundaries that most species would consider impossible. Space was just the next frontier, and they were ready. The pirate armada emerged from quantum shadow like a nightmare given mechanical form. 12 massive vessels, each the size of a small moon, bristled with weaponry stolen and adapted from a dozen conquered civilizations. Their hull designs told a story of brutal efficiency, patches of advanced technology welded onto cannibalized ship frames, weapon systems jury-rigged to maximize destructive potential. These were the Crimson Marauders, the most feared predators in the Orion cluster. They had decimated 3 advanced civilizations in less than 2 standard galactic cycles. Entire planetary populations reduced to scattered refugees. Entire economic systems obliterated. Their reputation was so terrifying that most spacefaring species would surrender at first contact. They never stood a chance against the Prometheus. Commander Ryan Thompson sat in the command chair, his neural interface humming with a complex dance of human and machine intelligence. Around him, the bridge crew moved with a synchronicity that defied traditional military training. They were not just operators. They were an integrated system, each member an extension of a larger, more complex intelligence. Tactical analysis, Thompson said, not a command, a request. Lieutenant Michael Chen's fingers danced across holographic interfaces. Quantum probability matrices calculated potential engagement scenarios faster than most species could blink. The ship's adaptive intelligence wasn't just processing data, it was interpreting it, predicting, transforming raw information into a living, breathing tactical landscape. Multiple engagement vectors, Chen reported. His voice carried zero emotion, pure information. Primary threat matrix indicates lead vessels equipped with quantum destabilization cannons. Secondary systems show experimental plasma dispersal technology, weapons that could tear apart molecular structures, technologies stolen from civilizations that had been at the cutting edge of quantum warfare. The Crimson Marauders believed they were untouchable. The first attack came with the subtlety of a quantum scalpel. 3 lead vessels unleashed quantum destabilization beams, weapons capable of literally pulling apart atomic structures, enough firepower to vaporize a medium-sized planetary defense platform. The Prometheus didn't dodge. Its adaptive electromagnetic shields didn't just absorb the incoming energy, they transformed it. Quantum entanglement principles that most species considered theoretical became a living, breathing defensive system. The incoming destructive energy was not just blocked. It was redirected, transformed, turned into a tool of defense and potential counterattack. Targeting solutions engage, reported Sarah Rodriguez from the weapons station. Her neural interface was a direct extension of the ship's computational systems. No delay between thought and action. No separation between human intuition and machine precision. The first response came in the form of quantum-entangled plasma rounds. Each projectile wasn't just a piece of weaponry. It was a complex quantum probability package, capable of existing in multiple potential vectors simultaneously, able to adjust its trajectory mid-flight based on real-time tactical analysis. 3 pirate vessels disappeared in the first salvo. Not destroyed. eliminated, reduced to atomic scatter before their crews could even comprehend what was happening. The remaining pirate ships attempted to regroup, adaptive tactics that had worked against hundreds of previous targets. Quick quantum jumps, simultaneous multi-vector attacks, overwhelming force through sheer numbers. The Prometheus treated their attack like a complex mathematical equation to be solved. Each incoming weapon was not just defended against, it was analyzed, understood, transformed into a tactical opportunity. The ship's computational systems were processing billions of potential scenarios per microsecond, not just predicting enemy movements, guiding them, herding the pirate vessels into precisely calculated kill zones. 17 minutes. That was all it took. 12 massive pirate vessels, technological terrors that had conquered entire star systems, reduced to rapidly expanding debris, not through brute force, through a level of tactical and technological sophistication that redefined the very concept of space warfare. On the bridge, no one celebrated. No dramatic speeches, no moment of triumphant emotion. Just the quiet understanding that they had just rewritten the rules of galactic conflict. The Prometheus hung in space, silent, deadly, a promise of capabilities that most species couldn't even begin to comprehend. The Galactic Confederation's central chamber fell silent. Holographic displays continued to replay the combat footage, each replay somehow more impossible than the last. Delegates from 186 different species watched with a mixture of horror, fascination, and profound existential uncertainty. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of this storm of attention, her presence a study in controlled composure. She wasn't tall by human standards. Average height, athletic build, with eyes that seemed to absorb more information than they reflected. Her uniform carried no unnecessary ornamentation, no medals, no indicators of rank beyond a simple insignia that most alien observers couldn't even interpret correctly. The preliminary report lay before the assembled diplomatic council. 12 advanced pirate vessels, completely neutralized, 17 minutes of engagement, 0 casualties on the human side. 0. Ambassador Krelnox of the Viridian Cooperative found his vocal synthesizers struggling to process the information. His species had developed faster than light travel centuries, before humans had emerged from their first technological revolution. They had fought countless battles, developed sophisticated defense systems, understood the complex mathematics of interstellar conflict. And yet, the engagement parameters defy conventional tactical analysis, he managed to articulate, his translation matrix working overtime to capture the nuanced mixture of emotions: respect, fear, professional jealousy. Chief Diplomatic Analyst Zaralik reviewed the combat logs for the 17th time. Each review revealed new layers of complexity. The human vessel hadn't just defeated the Crimson Marauders. It had solved them, like a complex mathematical equation, like a strategic puzzle where every potential move was anticipated, calculated, and neutralized before it could even be attempted. The neural interface technology was particularly disturbing. Most spacefaring civilizations maintained a clear separation between biological intelligence and computational systems. Humans had blurred those lines completely. The ship's crew didn't operate technology. They became technology. Each crew member an integral part of a larger, more complex cognitive system that functioned with a level of synchronicity that bordered on the supernatural. Lieutenant Michael Chen's combat analysis report read more like a scientific dissertation than a military document. Precise, analytical, devoid of emotional language. Each sentence a scalpel of pure information that carved away traditional understanding of conflict. The Prometheus itself defied conventional ship design. No wasted space, no unnecessary ornamentation. Every centimeter of the vessel was a deliberate engineering choice. Adaptive materials that could reconfigure themselves mid-combat. Quantum communication systems that seemed to predict potential threats before they materialized. Most species saw warfare as an extension of political conflict. Humans saw it as a complex problem-solving exercise. The engagement demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of human technological capabilities, Rodriguez explained, her voice carrying zero emotional inflection. Pure information delivery. The Crimson Marauders represented a persistent threat to civilian populations in the Orion cluster. Our intervention was a necessary solution to an ongoing humanitarian crisis. Humanitarian intervention. The words themselves were straightforward. The implied capabilities were anything but simple. The assembled diplomatic council struggled to process this perspective. Most spacefaring civilizations approached conflict through elaborate diplomatic channels. Negotiation, compromise, careful balancing of potential political repercussions. Humans approached problems differently. They saw challenges as equations to be solved, obstacles as opportunities for innovation, conflict as a complex system that could be analyzed, understood, and ultimately resolved through a combination of technological innovation and strategic thinking. The Prometheus wasn't just a warship, it was a statement, a declaration that humanity would not be defined by others' expectations, that they would approach universal challenges with a unique combination of technological innovation, strategic thinking, and a pragmatic approach to problem-solving that defied traditional understanding. Captain Rodriguez stood quietly, allowing the diplomatic council to process the information. No dramatic speeches, no attempts to justify or explain. Just a quiet, confident presence that suggested this was merely the beginning. The unspoken message was clear. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and they were ready to rewrite the rules. The diplomatic chamber of the Galactic Confederation's primary negotiation hub was a marvel of architectural design. Adaptive environment fields allowed each representative to experience their optimal atmospheric and gravitational conditions simultaneously. Quantum translation matrices ensured instantaneous, nuanced communication across 186 different species. Lieutenant Michael Chen understood the space better than most of its native inhabitants. He wasn't just a diplomatic liaison. He was a living bridge between human complexity and galactic political intrigue. His neural interface allowed him to process multiple layers of communication simultaneously: verbal, biochemical, quantum-encoded, and the subtle interplay of cultural nuance that most species missed entirely. The current negotiation concerned the Orion cluster intervention. What the Crimson Marauders had presented as a simple territorial expansion, humans saw as a complex humanitarian crisis with multilayered geopolitical implications. The current refugee displacement in the Orion cluster represents more than a localized conflict, Chen began. His presentation materialized as a holographic display, not just data, but a living, interactive model of complex social and economic interactions. Most diplomatic negotiations were exercises in carefully managed compromise. Humans transformed them into problem-solving sessions. The hologram showed intricate network connections, economic flow patterns, resource distribution models, migration trajectories. Each visualization was a quantum-level analysis that went far beyond traditional intelligence gathering. Where other species saw individual data points, humans saw complex systemic relationships. Ambassador Krelnox of the Viridian Cooperative found himself simultaneously impressed and unsettled. Humans didn't just present information. They revealed underlying systems. The Crimson Marauders' economic model relies on systematic resource extraction and population displacement, Chen continued. His voice carried zero emotional inflection. Pure information delivery. Their operational methodology creates cascading socioeconomic destabilization across multiple stellar systems. The hologram shifted. Economic nodes turned from vibrant blues to deep reds. The visualization wasn't just a representation. It was a living model of systemic collapse. Most species approached diplomatic negotiations as a zero-sum game. Humans saw them as complex optimization problems. Sarah Rodriguez, standing slightly behind Chen, monitored the quantum communication interfaces. Her neural link with the ship's computational systems allowed her to process multiple layers of communication simultaneously. Verbal exchanges were just the surface. She was tracking biochemical responses, quantum communication undertones, and a complex web of potential diplomatic outcomes. The assembled diplomatic council represented species with technological capabilities spanning thousands of years of development. Quantum communication specialists, empathic negotiators who could read biochemical emotional responses, advanced artificial intelligence systems designed for complex political analysis. They were all slightly out of their depth. Humans didn't just communicate. They transformed communication into a strategic tool more precise than any weapon. Chen's presentation continued. Each data point was not just information. It was a carefully constructed argument that anticipated potential counterarguments before they could be formulated. The holographic display began to show potential intervention strategies, not just military solutions, but comprehensive social reconstruction models. Refugee resettlement programs, economic revitalization strategies, educational infrastructure development. Each proposal was a quantum-level analysis that demonstrated how solving the immediate conflict could create long-term systemic stability. Our intervention is not a military operation, Chen explained. It is a comprehensive systems restoration approach. The diplomatic council found themselves increasingly fascinated. Humans weren't offering a solution. They were presenting a complete systemic redesign. Ambassador Zaralik of the Central Coordination Committee leaned forward. Her specialized perception fields detected something unprecedented, a negotiation approach that didn't seek victory, but optimal system functionality. Where other species saw boundaries, humans saw opportunities for integration. The holographic display continued to shift. Potential outcomes branched and rebranched with mathematical precision. Not a linear projection, but a living, adaptive model of potential futures. Diplomatic negotiations became something entirely different. Not a battle of competing interests, but a collaborative problem-solving exercise where human innovation transformed seemingly intractable challenges into opportunities for systemic improvement. The Galactic Confederation was about to learn that humanity's most powerful weapon wasn't technology. It was imagination. The Human Research Facility stood as a testament to a civilization's capacity for reinvention. Located in the reconstructed territories of what was once the American Southwest, the International Advanced Research Complex represented more than a scientific installation. It was a living museum of human adaptation, a physical manifestation of a species that had learned to transform catastrophe into opportunity. Dr. Elizabeth Reyes walked through the quantum computing wing, her fingers trailing along adaptive material surfaces that seemed to respond to her very presence. Each section of the facility told a story of survival, of innovation born from the most challenging circumstances humanity had ever faced. The climate wars of the mid-21st century had been more than a conflict. They were a crucible that had fundamentally reshaped human civilization. Entire ecosystems had been rebuilt using technologies originally developed for survival. Water reclamation systems that had saved coastal populations now formed the basis of advanced planetary terraforming technologies. Renewable energy solutions, born of desperate necessity, had evolved into quantum energy manipulation techniques that redefined the understanding of power generation. Most galactic civilizations saw technological development as a linear progression. Humans understood it as a complex, adaptive ecosystem. In the medical research wing, breakthrough neural interface technologies originally developed to help patients with neurological disorders now allowed for unprecedented human-machine integration. The line between biological intelligence and computational systems had become beautifully, impossibly blurred. Commander Ryan Thompson's family history was emblematic of this transformation. His grandmother had been a lead engineer who redesigned Los Angeles after the massive earthquake and sea level rise of 2052. His grandfather, a climate refugee, had developed agricultural technologies that fed millions during the global migration crisis. Every human carried such stories of adaptation. The quantum computing labs demonstrated humanity's most profound innovation. These weren't just computational devices. They were living cognitive systems that learned, adapted, and evolved. Where most species developed artificial intelligence as a separate technological tool, humans had created computational systems that were extensions of human creativity. Sarah Rodriguez's work on adaptive material sciences represented the pinnacle of this approach. Materials that could reconfigure themselves in real time. Computational systems that could predict and prevent systemic failures before they occurred. Technologies that blurred the lines between design, prediction, and active problem-solving. Most galactic civilizations approached technological development as a series of incremental improvements. Humans saw it as a continuous process of radical reimagination. The medical research wing showed perhaps the most profound human innovation. Regenerative technologies that could restore entire ecosystems. Neural interface systems that could help species with fundamentally different cognitive structures communicate. Biotechnological solutions that approached healing as a complex systemic challenge rather than a simple mechanical repair. Lieutenant Michael Chen's latest research project examined communication technologies that could bridge seemingly impossible cultural divides. Not just translation systems, but deep cognitive interface technologies that could help different species truly understand each other's fundamental perspectives. Philosophical approaches to technological development set humans apart. Where other species saw challenges as obstacles, humans saw opportunities for systematic redesign. Every crisis became a chance for innovation. Every limitation became a potential breakthrough. The Prometheus was more than a warship. It was a physical manifestation of this philosophical approach. Every system told a story of human adaptation. Quantum drive technologies derived from climate mitigation research. Adaptive shield systems inspired by biological immune responses. Targeting algorithms that evolved from crowd management artificial intelligence. Dr. Reyes paused before a massive holographic display, showing the interconnected development of human technologies. No linear progression, a complex, adaptive ecosystem of innovation. The galactic community had fundamentally misunderstood humanity. They weren't a young, chaotic species. They were a civilization that had learned to transform challenge into opportunity. A species that saw every obstacle as a complex problem waiting to be solved. The research complex hummed with potential. Not just technological potential, but the potential of a species that had learned to reimagine itself continuously. Humanity wasn't just preparing for the future, they were designing it. The Galactic Confederation's historical archives would later mark this moment as a fundamental turning point. The Prometheus hung in space, not as a symbol of conquest, but as a testament to human potential. Its very existence challenged every preconceived notion about technological development, interstellar diplomacy, and the nature of intelligent species. Captain Elena Rodriguez reviewed the mission logs with her characteristic analytical precision. Each data point told a story far more complex than a simple military intervention. The Orion cluster rescue was more than a humanitarian mission. It was a comprehensive systems restoration project that would fundamentally reshape 3 entire stellar systems. Most species saw exploration as a territorial exercise. Humans saw it as an opportunity for systemic healing. The communication channels buzzed with activity. Diplomatic representatives from across the Galactic Confederation attempted to process the unprecedented intervention. The Prometheus hadn't just neutralized a threat. It had presented a complete reconstruction strategy that addressed economic, social, and ecological challenges with a level of complexity that left most alien analysts reeling. Lieutenant Michael Chen monitored the diplomatic interfaces, his neural link processing multiple layers of communication simultaneously. Verbal exchanges, biochemical responses, quantum communication undertones. The subtle dance of interstellar politics became a complex mathematical equation to be solved. Commander Ryan Thompson understood the deeper significance of their mission. This wasn't about military prowess. It was about demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to universal challenges. The ship's computational systems continued to analyze and process data from the Orion cluster intervention. Not just military data, social structures, economic networks, Ecological systems. Each analysis revealed layers of interconnected challenges that most species would have considered insurmountable. Sarah Rodriguez worked on the adaptive reconstruction models, technologies that could help rebuild entire planetary ecosystems, communication systems that could bridge seemingly impossible cultural divides, healing approaches that saw recovery as a complex, interconnected process rather than a simple mechanical repair. Most galactic civilizations approached first contact as a carefully managed diplomatic dance. Humanity transformed it into a comprehensive problem-solving exercise. The preliminary reports told a story that would reshape galactic understanding. The Crimson Marauders, a threat that had decimated 3 advanced civilizations, had been completely neutralized, not through overwhelming force, but through a level of strategic and technological sophistication that redefined the very concept of conflict resolution. 0 casualties on the human side. Complete systemic restoration of the affected stellar regions. A diplomatic approach that transformed potential conflict into an opportunity for collaborative problem-solving. The Prometheus represented more than a technological achievement. It was a living demonstration of human philosophical approach to universal challenges. Every system told a story of adaptation. Every technological solution revealed a deeper understanding of interconnected complexity. Quantum communication interfaces began to light up across the Galactic Confederation. Emergency refugee relocation programs, economic revitalization strategies, educational infrastructure development. The humans weren't just offering a solution, they were presenting a complete systemic redesign. Ambassador Zaralik of the Central Coordination Committee found herself both fascinated and slightly terrified. Humans didn't see boundaries. They saw opportunities for integration. The ship continued its mission, a silent promise of capabilities that most species couldn't even begin to comprehend. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors, not as newcomers, but as a species with a unique capacity to transform challenges into opportunities. The unidentified warship was now identified, and it was magnificently, unmistakably human. A new chapter in galactic history had begun. The universe would never be the same.